It doesn't matter.
You hesitate.
All right, everyone. So today we're talking about trust, transparency, and aligning the vision. And I'm going to let Nicole take off with this and tell you what we're talking about.
I am very excited about this. Are we looking at each other or are we looking at the phone?
I don't really know what we're supposed to do. This is our first time doing this.
It's an awkward angle when I
Try not to pick my nose.
Let me do this. But now I can't see my notes. But
My pants, a little goofy.
So this is big for me because I know that when we started talking, like the first time we talked, I wanted to talk about the relationship aspect of entrepreneurship. And I think because it's so common, because it's so, like, I'm guilty of looking at the Facebook groups and not just lawn care Facebook groups, because this is like entrepreneurship wide. This is completely business wide. But the biggest, I see the same things over and over, and not just from lawn care professionals again, but from so many people starting their business, that their significant other is mad at them or giving them ultimatums, choose it's me or the business, or they're pissed because the person's working so much. So many different relationship issues. And generally speaking, the business owner is complaining to another group of business owners about this. And generally speaking, the business owners,
Don't be hitting it.
the business owners, like, overwhelming response is throw some money at them from this business and it'll be fine. Or just like really ignorant advice. Or, if there's the ultimatum, which I don't think that's a conversation on its own, but if there's an ultimatum, that's a much bigger issue. But if that person's significant other is like, choose me or the business, and the person's just like, F that person, the group, is like, F her, they don't get it. That's true, but I don't know. I think that when you start talking about ways to actually like dig deep into the bigger issues of that, like, you're not really getting wise advice. You're just getting ignorant advice from the same, it's like an echo chamber. So I think I want, as someone who's been on the other side of it and two people who are through it to to the other side, I thought that talking about trust, transparency, and aligning the vision as a whole is a big, powerful, like, potentially marriage, relationship saving topic.
I like that. And I mean, I just kind of want to ask this because when I see these things, these are the two things that come up to me. And from a woman's perspective, I guess, is what I want to know. When I see this and I see somebody saying, hey, I make this amount a week and, all I do is work my tail off. Like, I've been in that position. I totally get what that feels like to say that. But when you put that on a Facebook group and you expect people to be like, I understand, keep doing what you're doing, it'll be fine. Like, I feel like one thing is your significant other probably doesn't really see a future in what you're doing because you're working and working and working and it's not going anywhere. Even if the amount of money is impressive, relatively speaking, to where you're at now from where you were back in the day or when you first started, what's the next step? Do they see you excelling and it changing? Do they see dramatic life-changing things coming from this? Or do they just see you killing yourself for your entire life?
And they see, on the flip side of them seeing you do that, they're bearing the extra weight of whatever is going on, because if you're not showing up at home because you're putting all these extra hours and you're not showing up in the relationship, that means that all that weight that you took off of that is transferred onto them. So if you have kids or whatever, like, all that extra weight is on that person. Trust, transparency, and aligning the vision, each piece of that is so important because it's hard to have one without the other, and that's how you roll on to understanding. I want to talk about how when you quit your job and you said you were starting a lawn care business, that's all you told me. And I was pregnant with our first child, working in a job I hated, not knowing what the future held. And I remember telling my boss at the time that that's what you're doing. Like, you're quitting this really great job. We're about to have our first baby. He's going to start mowing lawns. And the guy laughed at me. And I really liked that boss. I don't know if you remember him. He was great. He laughed. And I felt like defensive. I trusted you, though. Like, you told me that, and yes, we were scared, but like, I had the utmost trust in you. So I think that, like, our foundation of our relationship and you quitting your job, we didn't have the vision aligned yet. I didn't know what it was going to come. I didn't know what you were planning. I really thought you were just going to mow some lawns. We never talked about it, but I trusted you. And it was just, that's like foundational for a relationship, especially because we were in such a transitional period. But then we didn't have the experience yet to know about how important the transparency is of, like, now I feel like if you know you're going to be working like 10 or 15 hours more that week, you tell me, and you just say, hey, FYI, you always let me know, or, hey, money's really bad right now, or, hey, things are really bad right now, or, hey, this is what we need. Like, you're so transparent with everything in the business, and you're also not just how it relates to me as a person that works in the business as well, but you're transparent with me and how it's affecting you and as a person and like our home life and the changes we should be making. And so many people, like, I picture this stereotypical person who is like in the field, deep in what they're doing, working like 80 hours a week, and they come home and they have a couple beers and they're pissed off and they're tired. They take a shower, they throw their dirty ass clothes in the like laundry for somebody else to wash them, and they get leftovers out, and they didn't show up. They just go to bed. And like, yeah, your wife would be pissed about that.
Yeah, I mean, and this is coming from me totally understanding that position because I've been that guy. You know, I've came home, I've worked my fucking ass off all day with nothing left, and I want to have a beer or whatever, and then a couple beers makes you even more tired, then you even don't want to do stuff even more. And it's crazy just knowing where we're at now. Like, that isn't, even though you can do so much of one thing to produce income or whatever that is, and that may be like totally irrelevant for what actually makes the other person happy, or what it actually takes to make sure your relationship's doing good. And then when you sense this frustration of you came home, you showed up in your version, which is a tired version, overworked, gassed out.
You worked all day for her.
You worked all day for her. You worked all day for your family. You worked all day to everybody should be bending over and thanking you. It's like everybody else has a life too, and they didn't necessarily sign up for what you have going on. So I think it's crazy that to get to that place where you realize that isn't it. Like, that doesn't fulfill the other person. And for you to separate from wanting to just go on Facebook on a little group and bitch about, I work my ass off and this is what I was told. I was given an ultimatum. I was given this. And then getting the negative reinforcement of other people who are probably going through the exact same fucking thing. It's not getting any fucking better. Their relationship's not getting any better. They're not raising their income any. They're just rat wheeling it. And they're all like, the fact of the matter is, you're going on Facebook to fucking get an answer or a response for something like this. That's the fucking problem in the first place. Like, well,
you need to be asking someone that's through it, not people that are in it. And also, I think that this is what struck a chord with me the most, was I saw several people in a post like that I'm specifically thinking of say, this guy was like, I'm owed this much money worth of lawns this week, like a few grand worth, whatever. And then the overwhelming response was, throw some few hundreds at her, she'll shut up, and let her go shopping. And that's so ignorant, because she's not asking for your money, she's asking for you to show up as a partner. And it's like, it's that evolved thinking of realizing you could give me $200 right now and I would still be very resentful and mad at you. That makes no difference, because I'm not trusting you now. Like, I don't trust you in what you're doing, because this feels horrible, because our visions are not aligned, because is this what I signed up for? Like, for us, our relationship was already started, and our schedule, like, we had the whole routine of our life down, right? Like, you worked this job, I worked that job. And then it was like, hey, I'm quitting this. Well, actually, it was a whole year of, I'm going to work part-time on this lawn care business. And I remember for that whole beginning year where you were part-time with this business, like, you were working, you were in the office until like 11, midnight. I didn't see you at all. Like, I felt like our relationship wasn't really there, because you were trying so hard to get this lifted off the ground, and it was really lonely. But I wasn't aligned with you. I never stepped in and said, how can I help this? It was just like, well, he's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
But I think that becomes the permanent place that so many people stay in. Well, he mows lawns, and it's just, he works all the time. How many times do you hear that? Just, well, he works all the time.
Yeah.
And then the woman or whoever, that's the typical. I mean, you just have to show up wherever you're at. That was the biggest thing I took from marriage counseling. Wherever you're at, be 100% there. Be 100% at work. Then come home, and even when you have nothing left, be 100% at home.
Well, that's the bigger thing too. Like, marriage counseling or other things, we've not always been perfect. We've had super big challenges. We've got over and through and whatever, so many different situations. And to know that, like, there's so many people that don't seek the appropriate help out there. Like, marriage counseling is a powerful tool. If you're married, and even if you're happy, I think you should be going to marriage counseling. We should probably go to more. We should find somebody here. Because you don't know what you don't know about yourself, and you you need an unbiased opinion from someone else to look in and see what's truly potentially bringing you to where you're at, like why you're showing up for your partner the way you are. Like, why is it? Because you don't yet, or why not? Because you might even know, you probably don't even know the reasons why you're showing up the way you are. Like,
you start building, go ahead.
No, I didn't know a lot of the things that she kind of revealed to us. I didn't even know necessarily why I was doing the things the way I was doing them. It was just the way I was doing them.
Exactly. And we were able to break through that and find new patterns. And then we left those old things behind, and it's like you're like leveling up in a video game, like over and over and over, to be like, wow, it doesn't have to be like that. Wow, this is the next awesome level. Like, I feel like our relationship is at just every day it gets better and better. And I think it's because we're so aligned right now. We've said that a lot recently. Like, our visions and what we're working for are so aligned. But back to like not being in that place, because if you're not in that place, it's okay not to be in that place, but it's not okay to stay in that place. You have to do the work. We've done the work. We still are doing the work every day.
All the time.
But people tend to not want to do the work because they think, well, I have a lot I want to unpack with this. They think that there shouldn't be work that needs to get done. So they build up these defenses of, well, she's pissed at me because I'm working. So now I'm pissed at her because she should be grateful that I'm working. And now we're still fighting. And it's like you just like build this wall between you and your partner. But I think the other thing, oh gosh, what was I going to say?
If you want me to take off, I can take off.
You take off, because I'll probably come back to it.
So, like, I think the thing that's really crazy about all this, so we're talking about the trust and transparency. What's crazy is, like, when you don't show up the right way, you think that you should be building trust because you're working your ass off. And you're like, she should appreciate that. That should be it. But you're actually breaking the trust by not fulfilling the things that need to be fulfilled. You're working hard, yes, but you're now breaking trust in other areas, which screws up the relationship. And something for so long that I didn't even see that, like, well, I mean, until recently, like, our lives have dramatically been getting better recently. And it's crazy how fast things can change. Like, we both started, like, I always had said I was going to read more books. I've always read so much about business, and I always said I was going to read more and more about, family and marriage and different things, because you need to be leveling up and learning more. And just starting to read the 5 love languages, like, realizing that it's so ignorant to think, yeah, you work and then that's what fills someone else's tank.
Exactly.
To know that, yeah, I show up and I provide, and that should be enough. Because it might not even be that much extra things, but there's just little areas in your life where you need to work on, because that person doesn't give a shit about how much you work. They'd be just as happy if you were fucking broke, but you were there spending time with them. Or you were broke, but you wrote them a card, or you did something, like you showed up in one of these other areas that the providing might not actually be it. It might be some other totally different area, and it might not be that crazy hard to fulfill, but your alignment is just one click out of where it should be. Like, you're just one small amount off, but that's enough to dramatically change your world.
Because I totally agree. And if my love language is quality time and you are working, I never see you, and the excuse, because that's all it is, an excuse, is that you're so swamped with work and you're mowing all these lawns and I should know this. Well, my cup, like my love cup, is never going to get filled, and it's just going to drive a wedge between our relationship until you meet my love language, which is quality time. And so I think it's like, so many people have this level of pride, because it is a very, like, what you're doing, you're building something. Even if you're stuck, and even if you're growing slowly, and even if you're in the field for years and years and years, like you weren't, but even if you're someone who is, there's that pride of like, well, I'm building something like big, and this someday will be like huge for us. Just like you said, the building and providing may not be that impressive, but like if you just took like one evening and didn't mow a few lawns and just came home and was just present, like I don't think people realize that might be all that person needs to dramatically, like, then you start watching your relationship just change dramatically, because wow, now my cup is being filled, you're meeting my love language, and then, what's yours, vice versa. I just think people don't put which we could talk about the 5 languages just on itself.
Whole different thing. What's the last thing we're talking about? Trust, transparency, and
aligning the vision.
Aligning the vision. See, that's what we've been saying lately is like how aligned we are, and we feel better than ever. And I totally like. We're talking about these things. We're comparing it to the 5 Love Language, the 5 Love Languages book. If you haven't read it, you should read it.
Do read it. Like, you must read it.
You must read it. If you're in a relationship, you must read it. And even if you're not in a relationship, you're a parent, you're a manager, anything. Like, if you're dealing with people, if you're alive.
If you know anyone in the world, you should read this
that you
book.
speak to.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Now I forgot what I was going to say.
Aligning the vision. Just
aligned. That's the other thing is like they may not be able to see where you're actually going, and they may not have faith that you're going to be there, that you're going to get there. That's the other thing. So aligning the vision and knowing where you're actually going. It can be hard because who's to say? You might have been doing what I did, leaving a job where I was making good money, and it might sound like mowing lawns. To me, I knew it was like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to fucking kill it, and I'm going to learn business, and I'm going to become a businessman, and I'm going to take this into every single thing in my life, and I'm going to find opportunity around every freaking door in the world. I'm going to unbury it, and I knew that that's what I was going to do. And that was my whole goal. But I never really said that, and I was going to work real hard, and I was going to get somewhere. So to define that mission or that purpose that you have, so you can actually be aligned, or so that you maybe because right now you're about to fucking win this. If this podcast ever drops, this one we're doing right now, mark my words, we are about to fucking explode and grow dramatically more than ever, because me and my beautiful wife here have been more aligned in the past 14 days even than we have been in the past. How long have we been married? 7 years? 6 years?
We've been married for 5 years.
5 years. See?
Yeah,
we've been together. We've been together forever. So this is going to make a dramatic change in everything, and that's the whole deal. Everything in my life, and not that you haven't been involved. You've been involved in everything. Without you, nothing would be possible. But there's been times where between the kids and the family and the challenges,
we were not aligned.
We weren't aligned. So yes, you were helping a shit ton, and I couldn't do what I do without her. Could not. But on the same token, if we were fully aligned and launching the whole time, where we could be. And this isn't my bad or her bad. It's life, But so that's what I'm so excited about right now, is that we're aligned.
But I agree, and I think I have two.
And we're not always going to be aligned.
No, we aren't. But I think that it's easy to sit here and look at us, and for us to be saying we're in the best place ever, and everything's going so great for us. But like you mentioned, we've been in the deepest, darkest pits. I've wanted to divorce you very early into our marriage. I was like, this is awful, because right when we got married was when our business was making such big strides. But you were doing all this. You were making these huge, big strides. And I was involved on a very small level, but I was rejecting it so much. That's why we hired Zoe, which best thing ever, because I was I will never answer the phones. I was a stay-at-home mom with one child. And he needed help, and I said, I will never answer your phones. I'm here with my kid. This is my job. This is what I'm doing. And that, I feel was sort of a rift for us, which it obviously worked out so well. And I'm glad I never... Do you have to go?
No.
I'm glad I never took on that role, because I was able to find my own role in the company. But there were several years there, on and off, where I feel I was in that same place that I wanted to give you an ultimatum. I never wanted to say it's me or the business. I never truly felt like that, but I was so resentful of this business. I was so mad at it. It got all of your attention. I felt like me and Jace, he was such a baby, and I was this transforming into a mom. You were transforming into a business owner, and it was just we were in such a bad place. I don't even know if you realized it as much. I was in a really bad mental place, so it could have been more me, but we didn't have the transparency. I never was able to really express that to you until after the fact.
Yeah.
And I remember being in counseling again one time, and I was I wanted to divorce you, and you were that was news to you, that was something I was seriously considering. And it's just interesting. But so I think it's important for people to know that we've made it through, and it's not money made us through it. It was you working. That's what I was going to say. It's all coming back. you work on your business. Like, people think relationships shouldn't be work. We got married, so just be happy with whatever it is. You've got the kids. It's easy for a person who works really hard, a man who works really hard, to look at his wife who stays home and be like, she's got all the freedom in the world, and she's, can do whatever she wants, and I give her a few $100 and she's happy. But, like, that's not it. She's working as well. That's her job. But, like, oh my God, it went away again. What was I going to say? Do you remember? Oh, but business, just like business, you don't stop working on your business. Exactly. You nurture your relationship, and I think so many of us fail to do that. It was anticlimactic.
I mean, it's fine, but like you're right. Like, and that was one of the things that. I mean, just recently I started reading the 5 love languages. I'm not even through the book, and I'm like listening to these stories, and I'm like, oh my God, you're a fucking moron. Like, how did you not see that situation, that was you? That guy that they're talking about in that situation, that was you. You thought that it should all be fine and everybody should be happy with what you're doing, but you're not doing what it actually takes for your relationship. Your relationship it needs something different. And like, just like people that I don't know what I do. Like, maybe I suck. I don't know. But like, I want to provide. I guess that's probably more than anything, is I want to be a provider and a leader, and I want to just give my family a life beyond belief. But quality time is huge to you, and so that's not, those two don't align. Some people like want to throw money and get presents and shit, and like if someone doesn't want presents, like that's not going to make them feel better. If gifts is not your thing, but gifts could be their thing.
It could be.
So
I mean, you could throw her a few $100 and keep working just as hard, and that might be awesome. Yeah, but I think if you've reached that point, it's probably not. But like, acts of service is a big one for me. So you've started, like, you've taken the initiative of, like, you do the dishes and you do all these things where, like, you're working all these long hours, but then I look and these things are done, the laundry's done, it just got done. And I don't know how that feels for you, but for me, it's like you're taking weights and weights and weights off of me to allow me to focus on other things, but then also it gives me more time to feed my energy back into the business. So it's like sort of a circle for you, or whatever, where you're giving,
circle of life.
You're giving, and then it gives back to you. But I don't know how much, like, physically and mentally that is takes your energy to give those acts of service.
But that's the thing. Like, for me, it doesn't take anything. It's just me. This is where I was so screwed up before. I was like, how can dishes and laundry be?
I'm not a housekeeper.
Yeah, how can that be that big of a fucking deal? Like, I'm sorry, like, this is transparent, but like, I'm like, how can this be such a big deal? Like, where it's worth, like, I don't know. I always felt like it was so minor and so easy that, like, what me helping wouldn't even make a difference. And now it's like, well, it is still, to me, it's minor and fairly easy. It does not like I get everything done all the time, but it's something that I can do while I'm reading and prepping for the day, and it doesn't change anything. Like, it's actually kind of therapeutic for me to do, and then just to know that I'm helping you.
It's momentously, like, I just can't even explain.
And I took something that I looked at, like, how the fuck can that be helpful to anyone, and just started doing it, and it's been huge for us.
But it's meeting my love language, and like, also
acts of service.
Sorry,
acts of bumping the microphone.
I think that something is, like, I feel like we've gone through cycles, and it'd be interesting to know if we get back into that, like, that low, where we're, like, really just, like, arguing a lot and, like pissed at each other, and not constantly, but consistently. And I feel like, in hindsight, that's just failure for us to meet each other's needs, and failure for us to show up in ways that we need to. Like, I feel like we're both really happy with ourselves and what we're doing and our purposes right now, and then we've been able to align them, which is huge.
Let me ask this. Like, so you're going to get the details of how I think everything should work here, but like, when we're upset and I just want it to be done and over, right? In a fight.
Well, yeah.
I just want it to be fucking done. Like, why does this shit have to continue, right?
It doesn't.
But no, hear me out. This isn't a fight thing. See, it's not always going to be perfect, but this isn't a fight thing. I think that when we're working actively and we're there for each other and we're both trying to show up for each other the way that you need, like me, acts of service, time, the things that you actually need, I think it might actually get us to a place where, just like I was pissed about the dishes, like that's so fucking easy. Why is it not, like, why is that something I need help with? And I mean, look how shitty of a fucking thought that is. Like, that already is just poor fucking mind bullshit. But so I feel like when you're on that and you're thinking that and you're not doing those things and you're against each other anyway, like when there's a fight, it just adds to the wanting to continue on, because he fucking didn't do the dishes. He didn't do this. He doesn't fucking give me time. And now it's fucking this. And he just wants it to be over. But I just want him to stop being a pain in my fucking ass. And I feel like some of this might get us to where, like, some of that's more possible to be like, dude, let's just stop fucking fighting.
I agree.
Because it's fucking totally irrelevant, because we're showing up for each other in every other way. We don't fucking agree. We are not the same human. Like, it's not the same brain. We're not always going to fucking agree. So now maybe that's something that will fucking happen more.
But we're aligned and we know what we're working to. We know the bigger picture. We're able to communicate and we're able to be more transparent. Like, it all just goes back and forth. So it's easier to get over those things, because it's also easier when you're transparent and you have that level of like, dude, sorry, that was just stress from work that came and was made me mean to you and had nothing to do with you. How
many more times lately though have I been trying, like, and be honest for everybody, like, I feel like when I'm shitty, I try to immediately say, it's like, that was fucking shitty. That was shitty. I didn't say it right.
Stop.
Like, yeah. I'm fucking sorry. Like, can't change it now. Yeah. That was fucking stupid.
I've noticed you take full accountability. You're like, I was an asshole. Even though I know in that moment, well, I was a bitch also. You just let it lie like that. I was a dick. And then that's it. And because you know that I am very stubborn as well, and it's harder for me.
We're the two most stubborn people in the world.
I let that be the final word when you say you were a dick, when I know in my head I'm like, I was a bitch too. But I hope you know that I'm thinking that, even though it doesn't come out because of my pride. But I also want to mention your love language, because your love languages are words of affirmation and physical touch. Is that what it is?
I think that's what you call it. It sounds dirty.
But it's true. It's such little things. And so I've been making an effort, because those are two things that don't connect with me, because like physical touch is like my lowest one, I think, because I'm so touched out from kids. Like, that doesn't fill me up. When you touch me, I'm like, like that's one more person touching me a lot of times. Yeah. But that's what fills your cup. So I've really been trying to make an effort there. And I think that, so we're both equally meeting each other's needs. You're not just, people might be watching this and be like, well, he's doing the dishes, so now your marriage is perfect. Like, no, like, we're both showing up how we need each other to show up.
Well, that's a silly thing. You watch this, and if you're watching this and you're in a spot where things aren't the greatest, like, that's how silly it is. Like, it's not always big things that make the difference. It's the little things that you actually do, that you consistently do, that can make a huge difference.
And I've got to say, too, for other people, I haven't read the 5 love languages yet.
You're starting to.
No, I'm reading the 4 agreements. Did you think that I said the 5 love languages?
I thought you said...
I realized that later. I was like, I bet he thought that's what
I'm out of points. I'm going to be reading the 4 agreements.
I feel like... But what I wanted to say is that you can literally, like, Google 5 love languages quiz and take a quick quiz. It's like you choose, I'd rather my partner do this or do that. And if you do that a few times, then it tells you what your love language is. So even if you don't have time to read the book, you guys should both sit down. You can do it from your phones and do it. They also have, because without even reading the book, I didn't have to read the book to realize it, even though I need to read the book to build on the foundation of what I know. But also you can do it with your kid. There's ones for kids too. Yep. So Jay's got a little bored doing it, and he's almost 6. But I feel like maybe a little older kids, you can learn their love languages. Because also, if you're a parent in the trenches just like this, and maybe your marriage is suffering, it's not just your marriage, it's usually like the kids' lives as well. Yeah. We want to show up for each other as our best selves for each other and align our vision for our children, because what we're building is for our children, and we can't leave them out of this. And we want to do this, give them the same love, respect, courtesies as 100%. Show up for them, just like we show up for each other.
For sure.
So that's important.
But yeah, and I mean, just the starting of this podcast, like us doing this is just, we've been wanting to do a podcast forever. And we've been wanting to do something together forever. Because for one, I think it's kind of therapeutic. Yeah. I think it's really cool to talk. And like we're right now I'm going to talk about the industry I'm in, but it's totally irrelevant because this is like going to be about business. It's going to be about us. It's going to be about like life and things getting better in life and how we are going to whatever crush it together, whatever the word is. But in our industry, you know, there's just not, I don't know, like lawn and landscape. You don't see enough people. Like I read all the books, I see all the things. You never see any like couples talking about anything about how they're going through it or getting through it, or there's all these people that are on YouTube and this and that, and they're, you know, it's so hard to differentiate, you know, like there's these people with these massive followings which have really small businesses but are giving information, and there's people with massive followings that have really big businesses but they could be totally stressed out of their mind, or they are like about living in a fucking box and they don't have like a wife or kids or anything, like, so it's totally unrelatable. And because I think a lot of the people out there are like have family, have to deal with this stuff, have to answer to someone about why you do the things you do besides yourself and God, you know, like, and have to have like kids that are being affected by what you're doing, and you may be feeling like a failure or a winner, like I don't know what it is, all based off of how it goes. And I just don't see, we're definitely going to be talking in way more things than just lawn and landscape, but that's why I think it's so powerful, because there's nothing there. It's just nothing at all of anyone that would come put this together and speak like this about this.
There are people who it's true, and it's a unique perspective because we started at the bottom together, and we very quickly climbed through the deepest and darkest and the highest parts of scaling a business very quickly. But we've been through those plateaus and those dark times, like that someone who's at like the 100K level or that's stuck in the field or trapped in their business level can relate to, because we've been there. But then we also are able to speak to that higher tier of like what comes next once you're through that, or we're able to just kind of give that clear view, and speaking as parents, because that's huge as well. And I think that there are not enough people who have, well, I think you get a lot of, the issues are clearly there, because, you know, we see all the posts that are giving horrible advice, but more than that, like you get messages and you know people, and we talk to people like personally that we know in our network, and then also just from wherever that have found you that like have these questions and have these same struggles. And so I think it'd be really cool to be able to put together questions, get like if people have specific situations, like I'd like to be able to give feedback. Q&A? Maybe more like therapy. Okay. From unlicensed professionals.
But yeah, she's right. Like I've seen people that look like they're killing it asking, like saying like it's the relationship that's really kept them from ever having anything. I've seen people that they have kids and it's a super challenge for them to do the job, and then feel like they're failing their kids because they never see them. I've seen people that their relationships just falling apart because the person doesn't think it's a joke and doesn't think it's worth it, because you're not pitching the right vision, or they don't even see the opportunity in. And a lot of it, you might think you're working your butt off, but working your butt off is not enough. And being a business owner and like, I've got that jet there because I want to have a jet someday. But just going to work and trying to work hard every day is not what's going to get you there. Like what gets you here will not get you there. That takes learning, being a different person, being involved with more outside of just physically grunting around and working in the field 24/7. And I think that's the disconnect a lot of people can't make. Just like they think me making money for you should make you happy. Well, me going to work and working hard doesn't make this go all the way. It will make you a certain amount of success, but it won't take you past that amount of success.
And I think back to that, I mean, there's not enough people talking about it in a raw and real way. Like, we won't bullshit you. Like, we won't hold back.
Yeah.
And I think that it's hard, especially for people that are still in the thick of it. You don't really want to admit, hey, I'm in the thick of this and it sucks really bad, and I'm a really shitty spouse right now and my kids hate me. But we can speak on that, and we're gonna give the true, because you talk a lot about how to grow a business and how to be a badass, and you've got this like shining confidence. But if you neglect to educate and talk about this whole other side of things, which is like the personal side of it, then you're not truly leading people as you could be, because
Yeah.
people are looking for mentors every day. You get so many messages from people wanting a mentor, and it's like, well, you kind of need to have like a whole life coach that's able to tell you, well, yes, you're doing all this and putting all this work into this. This is what you can expect at this time.
Yeah.
On this side of your life.
And that, I mean, this being our first podcast and it's going through like all this different stuff, you know, the whole thing about this is realizing that there's more to work on than just the business. Mm-hmm. There's more to work on than the business and the relationship. Mm-hmm. You know, there's like, your health, yourself. You have to put your passion, your like, you know, just like what I'm getting involved in. There's like 4 core areas in your life that you need to be working on. And if you're neglecting one to work on the other, now that doesn't mean you're going to work on all of them the same amount, but you have to have goals in each and you have to be working on them. Mm-hmm. So many business owners show up to work and just work on their business and then think that that's going to let everything's else is just going to fix itself.
Mm-hmm. But you can't lead from an empty cup, and you can't do that in your family either.
I think we've reached the end. I think I've ran out of time. Okay. But this is awesome. First talk. That was super cool. And yes, I just want to talk about the raw things of business and relationship that are going to help people get from here to there and are going to help you progress and show you what it's really like. Not some shiny fucking bullshit picture of just what people want it to look like or their version of success because of YouTube. Mm-hmm. So, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We love you.
Okay.